Stockholm Syndrome. In the bustling city of Shanghai, Hu, a 40-year-old accountant, lived a life that seemed stable on the surface. Yet, beneath her routine of numbers and spreadsheets, she felt an aching void. After a painful divorce a few years earlier, Hu longed for connection. Tired of her solitary evenings, she decided to try online dating, hoping to find someone who could fill the emptiness. She swiped through profiles, engaging in fleeting conversations, but no one sparked her interest until she met Chen. Chen seemed like a breath of fresh air. He introduced himself as a 45-year-old construction engineer working abroad. Through their chats, he was warm, attentive, and always knew how to make Hu smile. He shared stories of his travels, his struggles, and his dreams of building a family someday. For Hu, who had felt alone for so long, these messages became a lifeline. She found herself eagerly awaiting his texts, her heart lifting with each notification. After weeks of talking, Chen's tone shifted. He confided in Hu about a crisis. He'd been in a car accident abroad and needed money for medical bills and legal fees. His messages were laced with desperation, almost pleading. Hu, though she'd never met him in person, felt a surge of empathy. If I don't help him, who will? She thought. Trusting her instincts, she sent Chen $2,000 from her savings, a sum she'd carefully set aside. But the requests didn't stop. Chen's stories grew more urgent. Escalating hospital costs, fines to leave the country, even threats of lawsuits. Hu's doubts began to creep in. Why does he always need money? She wondered. Yet, each time she hesitated, Chen flooded her with emotional messages, calling her his savior and the only one he could trust. He even sent a photo of himself in a hospital bed, looking frail and vulnerable. Despite her growing unease, Hu kept sending money. Over 3 months, she sent nearly $14,000. One evening, Hu stumbled across an article about online scams. The red flags, sob stories, constant money requests, vague details matched her experience with Chen perfectly. Her stomach churned. She reached out to a friend who helped her investigate. The results were devastating. There was no engineer named Chen at the company he claimed to work for, and the hospital photo was a stock image from the internet. Hu was crushed. She felt humiliated, angry at herself for being so naive. But strangely, instead of cutting Chen off, she continued messaging him, sensing her shift. Chen spun a new tale. He was being coerced by a criminal syndicate in Myanmar and needed money to buy his freedom. Despite knowing she'd been scammed, Hu felt an inexplicable bond. She began to see Chen as a victim, someone who needed her help to escape danger, rather than walking away. She agreed to send more money to save him. So, what's happening? This is a textbook case of Stockholm Syndrome, a psychological phenomenon where victims develop positive feelings, even loyalty or affection, toward their abuser despite the harm inflicted. It often emerges in high-stress situations, where victims, feeling powerless, unconsciously bond with their abuser as a survival mechanism. In Hu's case, Chen's relentless manipulation, from sweet words to fabricated crises, trapped her in an emotional cycle. Even after discovering the truth, she felt compelled to protect him, a way to cope with her own shame and betrayal. Stockholm Syndrome isn't limited to kidnappings or physical abuse. It can manifest in subtler forms, like online scams, where manipulators exploit emotions to control their targets. Chen crafted an image of vulnerability, making Who feel like his only hope. This blurred her ability to see the situation clearly, locking her into a cycle of trust and dependence. Who's story makes us wonder, why would someone as intelligent as Who fall into this trap? Was her loneliness and yearning for connection what made her vulnerable? More importantly, could any of us find ourselves in a similar situation? Blinded by emotion? Stockholm Syndrome highlights the complexity of human psychology. In moments of vulnerability, anyone can become a target of manipulation. To protect ourselves, we must recognize the signs of scams, overly emotional stories, repeated money requests, or unclear identities. Above all, trust your instincts and seek advice from trusted friends when something feels off. What do you think of Who's story? Can you understand why she felt attached to Chen? Even after learning the truth, have you ever been in a situation where emotions overpowered reason? Share your thoughts in the comments. Cognitive dissonance, the battle within. In the vibrant streets of Hanoi, Lin, a 32-year-old marketing manager, was known for her sharp mind and ambition. She prided herself on making rational decisions, whether in her career or personal life. But lately, Lin found herself in a tug-of-war with her own thoughts. It all started when she invested heavily in a new health supplement brand, VitaGlow, after being swayed by its glossy ads and promises of vitality. Lin spent $3,000 on VitaGlow products. Convinced they'd transform her energy and well-being, she promoted the brand to friends, posting glowing reviews on social media. But after months of use, she noticed no changes. Worse, she stumbled across studies revealing VitaGlow's claims were exaggerated, with little scientific backing. Her friends began questioning her, pointing out the brand's shady reputation. Lin felt a knot in her stomach. She'd invested so much, money, time, and her reputation. Admitting she was wrong felt unbearable. Instead of returning the products or warning others, Lin doubled down. She bought more supplements, joined VitaGlow's ambassador program, and defended the brand fiercely online. The studies are biased, she told herself. I just need to give it more time. Deep down, she felt uneasy, but the thought of abandoning her commitment was too painful. Why was Lin acting against her own doubts? Lin's behavior is a classic example of cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort we feel when our beliefs clash with new evidence or actions. To ease this tension, we often twist our thoughts to align with our choices, even when they're flawed. Lin believed she was a smart, cautious person, but her heavy investment in VitaGlow contradicted that self-image. Rather than face the embarrassment of being wrong, she rationalized her decision, convincing herself the supplements would eventually work. As months passed, Lin's friends grew distant, tired of her relentless VitaGlow posts. Her savings dwindled, yet she kept promoting the brand, even joining their seminars. Each step deeper into the brand made it harder to turn back. The more she invested, the more she felt compelled to justify it. But late at night, doubts crept in. What if I've been fooled? She wondered. Still, she pushed those thoughts away, clinging to the hope that VitaGlow would prove her right. Cognitive dissonance occurs when we hold conflicting beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors, creating psychological tension. To reduce this discomfort, we might ignore evidence, distort facts, or double down on our choices. In Lin's case, admitting she'd been misled by VitaGlow meant confronting not just financial loss, but a blow to her self-image as a savvy professional. So, she reshaped her reality. focusing on the brand's promises rather than the evidence against it. This phenomenon is everywhere. Think of someone staying in a toxic relationship because they've invested years in it, or a smoker dismissing health warnings to justify their habit. Cognitive dissonance drives us to protect our ego, often at a cost. Lynn's story shows how powerful this mental tug-of-war can be, pushing us to defend choices that harm us rather than face the truth. Lynn's journey makes us question, why do we cling to beliefs that don't serve us? Have you ever felt torn between what you know and what you want to believe? Cognitive dissonance is a universal experience, but recognizing it can help us make clearer choices. Next time you feel that inner conflict, pause and ask, am I acting out of reason or to protect my pride? To avoid falling into Lynn's trap, seek out diverse perspectives, question your assumptions, and be open to changing your mind. It's not easy, but admitting a mistake can free you from the weight of dissonance. What do you think of Lynn's story? Have you ever doubled down on a bad decision to avoid discomfort? Share your thoughts in the comments. Herd mentality, the power of the crowd. Imagine the chaos of a Black Friday sale. People line up outside stores, waiting for hours to grab the best deals. They're all standing together, waiting for the store to open. But there's no real need to rush. There are enough items for everyone, and yet, as soon as the door opens, a stampede ensues. People begin pushing and shoving each other in order to get to the deals faster. Why? Because everyone around them is doing the same thing. This is a perfect example of herd mentality, the phenomenon where individuals adopt behaviors, beliefs, or actions based on what the majority is doing, often without thinking about the consequences or reasons behind those actions. The fear of missing out, FOMO, drives them to act in ways they might not otherwise do on their own. They feel safer doing what everyone else is doing, even though it can be chaotic, irrational, or dangerous. A real-life example of herd mentality can be seen in social media trends. For instance, during the Ice Bucket Challenge, thousands of people around the world participated in pouring ice water over themselves for charity. While it was a great cause, the movement also grew because everyone was doing it. No one wanted to be left out of the trend. People didn't necessarily stop to ask why they were doing it, or if they even supported the cause in the first place. They did it because it was trending, and they wanted to belong. Herd mentality is a psychological phenomenon where individuals in a group are influenced by the actions and behaviors of the majority, often following the crowd without analyzing or questioning their own beliefs and actions. This often happens unconsciously. People feel a sense of safety or belonging when they conform to group behavior, and fear being left out or judged for not participating. In situations where herd mentality is at play, individuals can end up acting irrationally or taking risks they wouldn't normally take, simply because they are following the group. This is seen in various scenarios, such as financial bubbles where everyone invests in a stock because others are doing so, or during crowd behavior in events like concerts or protests, where individuals might get caught up in the excitement and act impulsively. The psychological mechanism behind this is based on social proof, the idea that if everyone else is doing something, it must be right or safe. It's a survival instinct that helps us avoid isolation and fit in with the group. But in the modern world, this instinct can lead to irrational decision-making and dangerous behavior, as individuals give up their autonomy and follow the crowd. Have you ever caught yourself doing something just because everyone else was doing it? Maybe you've joined in on a trend or followed the crowd at a concert or event. only to realize later that it wasn't the best choice. Why do you think people so often follow the crowd, even when they know it's not necessarily the best decision? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Can you recall a moment when herd mentality affected your decisions? How do you feel about the influence of the crowd in your everyday life? Let's discuss how we can become more aware of this psychological phenomenon and make more independent choices. Reactant syndrome, pushing back against control. In the neon-lit heart of Tokyo, Aiko, a 25-year-old barista, lived for her freedom. She loved her job at a cozy cafe where she could express herself through latte art and connect with customers. Aiko prided herself on her independence, always choosing her own path, from her eclectic music taste to her bold hair colors. But when her new manager, Mr. Tanaka, introduced strict rules at the cafe, Aiko's world turned upside down. Mr. Tanaka enforced a rigid dress code, banned personal playlists, and demanded that all drinks follow a standardized recipe. No more creative latte designs. "This is for efficiency," he said. Aiko bristled. She'd always taken pride in her unique touches, and these rules felt like a cage. Her coworkers grumbled but complied, citing job security. Aiko, however, felt a fire ignite within her. "Why should I change who I am?" she thought. Instead of following the rules, Aiko rebelled. She wore brighter outfits, snuck her playlist into shifts, and kept crafting her signature lattes, even hiding them from Mr. Tanaka when he confronted her, warning of disciplinary action. Aiko doubled down. She started arriving late, ignoring protocols, and encouraging coworkers to resist. Her defiance cost her a promotion, and she risked losing her job. Yet, she couldn't stop. Why was Aiko so determined to fight back, even at her own expense? Aiko's behavior is a vivid example of reactant syndrome, the urge to resist or act against rules, restrictions, or attempts to control one's freedom. When Mr. Tanaka's rules stripped away Aiko's sense of autonomy, she felt a visceral need to reclaim it. Each new restriction fueled her defiance, even when it hurt her own interests. Her rebellion wasn't just about the cafe, it was about protecting her identity. As weeks passed, Aiko's actions grew bolder. She posted rants about the rules on social media, gaining support from friends but alienating her coworkers, who feared repercussions. Mr. Tanaka issued a final warning: comply or leave. Aiko's heart raced with anger, but also doubt. Am I taking this too far? She wondered. Yet, the thought of giving in felt like betraying herself. She continued her small acts of rebellion, even as her job hung in the balance, trapped in a cycle of defiance driven by her need to feel free. Reactant syndrome occurs when people perceive a threat to their freedom, triggering an urge to resist or do the opposite of what's demanded. It's rooted in our desire for autonomy. When someone tries to control us, we push back to restore our sense of choice. For Aiko, Mr. Tanaka's rules weren't just about work. They felt like an attack on her individuality. Her defiance, though self-destructive, was her way of reclaiming control. We see reactants everywhere. A teenager sneaking out after being grounded, a dieter binge-eating after a strict plan, or even customers ignoring no parking signs. Social media can amplify it, as public platforms give a space to vent or rally against perceived constraints. While reactants can spark positive change, like challenging unfair rules, it can also lead to reckless choices when emotions override reason. Aiko's story shows how the need for freedom can drive us to act against our own good. Aiko's rebellion makes us ask, why do we sometimes fight rules, even when it hurts us? Have you ever pushed back against something just because you felt controlled? Reactant syndrome is a natural response, but it can trap us in battles that aren't worth fighting. Recognizing it helps us pause and weigh our choices. Is this rebellion about freedom or just pride? To manage reactance, try redirecting that energy. Channel it into constructive dialogue or creative outlets rather than defiance for its own sake. Aiko might have negotiated with Mr. Tanaka or found other ways to express herself. What do you think of Aiko's story? Have you ever rebelled against a rule you felt was unfair? Share your experiences in the comments. Conspiracy theory phenomenon, chasing hidden truths. In the vibrant chaos of Jakarta, Reza, a 30-year-old freelance journalist, thrived on uncovering stories that others overlooked. Known for his sharp curiosity and knack for digging deep, Reza spent his days chasing leads and posting investigative threads on social media. But when a mysterious illness swept through his city, sparking rumors online, Reza found himself drawn into a rabbit hole he couldn't escape. It started with a viral post claiming the illness was no ordinary virus, but a secret government experiment gone wrong. The post linked to obscure blogs and grainy videos, citing leaked documents about a lab creating bioweapons. Reza, skeptical but intrigued, began researching. Most experts dismissed the claims, pointing to natural causes for the illness. Yet, the more Reza scrolled through online forums, the more he found others echoing the conspiracy. Posts about shady officials, hidden labs, and cover-ups. What if they're hiding something? He wondered. Reza started sharing these theories, first cautiously, then obsessively. He spent nights compiling evidence, connecting unrelated events into a grand narrative. His followers ate it up, flooding his posts with likes and comments. But his friends grew worried, noticing Reza's growing paranoia. He dismissed their concerns, insisting he was uncovering the truth. Even when a reputable study debunked the bioweapon theory, Reza doubled down, calling it propaganda. Why was Reza so consumed by a theory with little proof? Reza's descent into conspiracy theories reflects a psychological phenomenon where people cling to alternative explanations, often rejecting evidence to the contrary. The online echo chambers fueled his obsession, as each like and comment validated his beliefs. The more he invested, hours of research, public posts, arguments with friends, the harder it was to back out. Admitting he might be wrong felt like losing a part of himself. As months passed, Reza's life unraveled. He neglected work deadlines, lost touch with friends, and grew suspicious of everyone, even his family. When a friend shared a scientific report explaining the illness, Reza snapped, accusing her of being brainwashed. Deep down, a small voice questioned his fixation, but the thrill of knowing the truth kept him hooked. It wasn't until a health scare forced him to step back that he realized how far he drifted from reality. The conspiracy theory phenomenon describes the tendency to believe in elaborate, often unproven explanations for events, especially when they involve hidden motives or powerful forces. It's driven by a mix of cognitive biases, the need for certainty in uncertain times, distrust in authority, and the allure of being in the know. For Reza, the mysterious illness triggered fear and mistrust, making conspiracy theories an appealing way to make sense of chaos. Social media amplifies this phenomenon, creating echo chambers where like-minded people reinforce each other's beliefs. Confirmation bias kicks in. leading us to seek evidence that supports our views while ignoring what doesn't. Conspiracy theories can be harmless, like believing in UFOs, but they can also spiral into paranoia or division. Reza's story shows how the quest for hidden truths can consume us, blurring the line between curiosity and obsession. Reza's journey makes us wonder, why are we drawn to conspiracy theories, even when evidence points elsewhere? Have you ever believed a story that seemed too wild to be true? The conspiracy theory phenomenon thrives on our desire for answers, but it can lead us astray if we don't stay grounded. To avoid falling down the rabbit hole, question your sources, seek out reputable information, and be open to changing your mind. It's okay to be curious, but balance it with critical thinking. What do you think of Reza's story? Have you, or someone you know, ever gotten caught up in a conspiracy theory? Share your thoughts in the comments. Non-suicidal self-injury disorder. The silent struggle. In the bustling city of Manila, Sophia, a 19-year-old college freshman, was navigating her first year away from home. Known for her bright smile and knack for poetry, Sophia seemed to have it all together, but beneath her cheerful exterior, she was drowning in pressure, strict professors, endless assignments, and the weight of fitting in with new friends. At night, alone in her dorm, Sophia felt overwhelmed, like she was failing at everything. One evening, after a harsh critique from a professor, Sophia's emotions spiraled. She felt worthless, unable to shake the sting of failure. In a moment of desperation, she took a small blade from her art supplies and made shallow cuts on her arm. The pain was sharp, but it brought a strange relief, a brief escape from the chaos in her mind. She hid the marks under long sleeves, telling no one. Over weeks, cutting became her secret coping mechanism. Whenever stress or self-doubt hit, she turned to the blade, even though she didn't want to die. Why was Sophia hurting herself to feel better? Sophia's actions reflect non-suicidal self-injury disorder, a condition where people intentionally harm themselves without intending to end their lives. For Sophia, cutting was a way to manage overwhelming emotions, stress, shame, and loneliness. Each cut gave her a fleeting sense of control, a way to externalize the pain she couldn't express. She felt guilty and ashamed afterward, yet the urge to cut grew stronger with each stressful day. Sophia's friends noticed her withdrawing. She skipped hangouts, wore heavy sweaters despite the humid Manila weather, and seemed distant. When a close friend, Mia, asked if she was okay, Sophia brushed it off, terrified of being judged. But one day, Mia spotted the scars during a study session. Instead of reacting with shock, Mia listened, urging Sophia to talk to a counselor. Sophia resisted at first, fearing stigma, but the cycle of cutting was exhausting her. With Mia's support, she took the first step towards seeking help. Though the journey felt daunting, non-suicidal self-injury disorder involves repeated, deliberate self-harm, like cutting, burning, or hitting, without suicidal intent. It's often a coping mechanism for intense emotional distress, helping people like Sophia feel temporary relief or control. Common triggers include stress, trauma, or feelings of worthlessness, though the behavior can affect anyone. Unlike suicidal acts, self-injury is about managing pain, not ending life, but it carries risks like infection or escalation. This disorder is more common than many realize, especially among teens and young adults. It's often hidden due to shame or fear of judgment, making it a silent struggle. Social pressures, like academic stress or social media comparisons, can worsen it. Sophia's story highlights how self-injury can become a cycle. Emotional pain leads to harm, which brings guilt, fueling more pain. Breaking this cycle often requires support, therapy, or healthier coping strategies like journaling or mindfulness. Sophia's story reminds us that pain isn't always visible. Why do some turn to self-harm to cope? Have you ever felt trapped by emotions you couldn't express? Non-suicidal self-injury is a cry for help, not a sign of weakness. Recognizing it, in ourselves or others, can be the first step toward healing. If you or someone you know struggle with self-injury, reach out to a trusted friend, family member, or professional. Small steps, like talking or seeking therapy, can make a difference. What do you think of Sophia's journey? Have you seen someone hide their pain behind a smile? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's raise awareness together. Burnout syndrome, when passion fades. In the gleaming skyline of Singapore, Emma, a 34-year-old project manager, was a rising star at her tech firm. Known for her relentless drive, she juggled tight deadlines, led high-stakes projects, and always said yes to extra tasks. Her colleagues admired her work ethic, and her boss called her indispensable. But beneath her polished exterior, Emma was unraveling. The long hours, endless emails, and pressure to perform were taking a toll she couldn't ignore. It started subtly. Emma felt exhausted, not just physically but emotionally. Tasks she once loved, like brainstorming innovative campaigns, now felt like chores. She snapped at coworkers over small mistakes and struggled to focus during meetings. At home, she'd collapse on the couch, too drained to cook or call friends. "I just need a break," she told herself. But vacations didn't help. One day, after forgetting a critical deadline, Emma broke down in her office, tears streaming as she stared at her laptop. What's wrong with me? She wondered. Why was her passion slipping away? Emma's struggle is a classic case of burnout syndrome, a state of chronic exhaustion caused by prolonged stress. Her demanding job left no room for rest, draining her energy and enthusiasm. She began dreading work, feeling cynical about her role and doubting her abilities. Yet, she kept pushing, fearing that slowing down would make her seem weak or jeopardize her career. As weeks turned into months, Emma's life shrank. She stopped going to the gym, ignored texts from friends, and lost interest in hobbies. Her sleep was restless, haunted by work-related anxieties. When a coworker suggested she talk to HR about her workload, Emma brushed it off, saying, "Everyone's stressed. I'll get through it." But the more she pushed, the worse it got. A panic attack during a presentation forced her to face the truth. She was burned out. With her sister's encouragement, Emma finally sought help from a therapist, beginning a slow journey to reclaim her balance. Burnout syndrome is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged stress, often from work. It's marked by 3 key signs: overwhelming fatigue, cynicism or detachment from tasks, and a sense of ineffectiveness. For Emma, the constant pressure to perform eroded her passion, leaving her feeling empty and disconnected. Burnout isn't just being tired. It's a deep depletion that affects health, relationships, and self-worth. Burnout is increasingly common in the high-pressure environments, from corporate jobs to caregiving roles. It's fueled by unrealistic expectations, lack of support, or an always-on culture, especially in fast-paced cities like Singapore. Left unchecked, it can lead to anxiety, depression, or physical health issues. Emma's story shows how burnout creeps in, turning passion into dread, and how hard it is to admit when we're stretched too thin. Emma's story makes us ask, why do we push ourselves to the breaking point? Have you ever felt so drained that you lost your spark? Burnout syndrome is a signal that something needs to change, but it's often ignored until it's too late. Recognizing the signs, exhaustion, cynicism, self-doubt, can help us act before we crash. To prevent burnout, set boundaries, prioritize rest, and seek support, whether from friends, colleagues, or professionals. It's not a sign of failure to step back. It's a step toward healing. What do you think of Emma's journey? Have you or someone you know faced burnout? Share your experiences in the comments. And let's talk about finding balance. Autism spectrum disorder. Seeing the world differently. In the vibrant pulse of soul, Min Jun, a 16-year-old high school student, was known for his quiet brilliance. He excelled in math, could recite entire chapters of his favorite sci-fi books, and spent hours sketching intricate cityscapes. But school was a challenge for Min Jun. The crowded hallways, loud chatter, and unwritten social rules overwhelmed him. Classmates called him weird for avoiding eye contact and sticking to routines. Like eating the same lunch every day, Min Jun wasn't trying to be different. He just saw the world in his own way. One day, a group project forced Min Jun to work with classmates who teased his precise speech and intense focus on details. Frustrated by their impatience, he froze during a presentation, his mind racing with sensory overload from the bright lights and whispering audience. Why can't I just be normal? He thought, retreating to the library to calm down. His teacher, Ms. Kim, noticed his distress and suggested he meet with a counselor. Min Jun's parents had long suspected he might be on the autism spectrum, but he'd never been diagnosed. Why did Min Jun struggle with things others found easy? Min Jun's experiences reflect autism spectrum disorder, ASD, a neurodevelopmental condition that shapes how people perceive and interact with the world. For Min Jun, social cues were like a foreign language, hard to decode and exhausting to navigate. He loved routines, finding comfort in their predictability, but changes, like a rescheduled class, could spark anxiety. His sketches and sci-fi books were his safe havens, where his vivid imagination thrived. After the group project fiasco, Min Jun's parents took him to a specialist who confirmed he was on the autism spectrum. The diagnosis was a relief and a challenge. Min Jun felt validated. His struggles had a name, but he also feared being labeled. With support from his counselor, he learned strategies to manage sensory overload, like using noise-canceling headphones. Ms. Kim worked with him to create a quieter presentation format, and his classmates began to appreciate his unique perspective. Slowly, Min Jun started to embrace his differences, finding strength in his creativity and focus. Autism spectrum disorder is a lifelong condition affecting communication, social interaction, and behavior. It's called a spectrum because it varies widely. Some individuals need significant support, while others, like Min Jun, navigate life with milder challenges. Common traits include difficulty with social cues, preference for routines, intense interests, and sensory sensitivities. For Min Jun, crowded spaces felt chaotic, but his love for patterns made him a gifted artist and problem solver. ASD is often misunderstood, leading to stigma or assumptions of oddness. Yet, Many with autism lead fulfilling lives with the right support, like therapy, accommodations, or understanding communities. The condition isn't a flaw, but a different way of experiencing the world. Minjun's story shows how diagnosis and support can empower someone to thrive, turning challenges into strengths. Minjun's journey makes us ask, how often do we judge what we don't understand? Have you ever felt out of place in a world that expects conformity? Autism spectrum disorder reminds us that everyone sees the world differently. And that's not a weakness, it's a perspective to value. Supporting those with ASD starts with patience and openness. Learn about their needs, respect their boundaries, and celebrate their unique strengths. What do you think of Minjun's story? Have you met someone whose differences taught you something new? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's build a more inclusive world together. Institutional syndrome, trapped by routine. In the bustling city of Kuala Lumpur, Rahim, a 42-year-old former inmate, stood at the threshold of a new life. After serving 15 years in prison for a non-violent crime, he was finally free. Rahim had once been a lively mechanic, full of dreams and humor, but prison had changed him. The rigid schedules, constant surveillance, and isolation had reshaped his world. Now, standing outside the prison gates, the freedom he'd longed for felt overwhelming, almost suffocating. Rahim moved into a halfway house, hoping to rebuild his life, but simple tasks, like shopping for groceries or choosing what to wear, paralyzed him. He missed the structure of prison, meals at 7 a.m., lights out at 10 p.m. Without those rules, he felt lost. At the halfway house, he followed old routines, waking early and waiting for instructions that never came. When a job counselor encouraged him to apply for work, Rahim hesitated, fearing failure in a world he no longer understood. Why can't things just stay the same? He thought. Why was freedom so hard to embrace? Rahim's struggle is a hallmark of institutional syndrome, the psychological impact of living in a highly controlled environment for so long that adapting to life outside becomes daunting. In prison, Rahim's every move was dictated: when to eat, sleep, or work. This structure, though restrictive, gave him predictability in a chaotic world. Over time, he internalized these routines, losing the ability to make independent choices. At the halfway house, Rahim's reliance on routine clashed with the demands of freedom. He avoided social events, overwhelmed by crowded malls and unfamiliar faces. When offered a job at a garage, he panicked, unsure how to navigate a workplace without strict orders. His counselor, noticing his withdrawal, connected him with a support group for ex-inmates. There, Rahim met others who shared his fears, helping him realize he wasn't alone. Slowly, with therapy and small steps, like choosing his own meals, he began to reclaim his independence, though the process was grueling. Institutional syndrome, sometimes called institutionalization, occurs when people become so accustomed to the rigid routines and control of institutions, like prisons, asylums, or long-term care facilities, that they struggle to function outside them. It's marked by dependence on structure, fear of decision-making, and difficulty adapting to change. For Rahim, prison's predictability became a comfort, making the open-ended nature of freedom feel like a threat. This phenomenon isn't limited to prisons. It can affect anyone in highly controlled settings, like soldiers leaving the military or patients exiting long-term hospitals. The loss of autonomy in these environments can erode confidence and initiative, leaving individuals feeling helpless in the real world. Rahim's story shows how institutional syndrome can trap someone in a mental cage, even after the physical bars are gone. Rahim's journey makes us ask, how does routine shape who we are? Have you ever clung to structure because change felt too scary? Institutional syndrome reminds us that humans crave predictability, but too much control can stifle our ability to thrive. Supporting those with institutional syndrome requires patience, guidance, and gradual exposure to independence. If you know someone struggling to adjust after a restrictive environment, listen without judgment and encourage small steps. What do you think of Rahim's story? Have you, or someone you know, faced challenges transitioning to a new chapter? Share your thoughts in the comments. And let's talk about breaking free from invisible cages. False memory phenomenon. When memories lie in the lively streets of Ho Chi Minh City, Lynn, a 27-year-old event planner, was known for her sharp memory and storytelling flair. She loved sharing childhood tales at family gatherings, especially one about a magical Tet celebration when she was 6, where she swore she saw fireworks burst over her grandmother's village. Her family listened fondly, but her older brother, Nam, raised an eyebrow. Lynn. There were no fireworks that year, he said. Confused, Lynn insisted she remembered it vividly, the colors, the sounds, the excitement. How could she be wrong? The doubt lingered. Lynn started questioning other memories. She recalled a school trip where she got lost in a museum, but no one else in her class remembered it. Her confidence shaken. She dug through old photos and journals, finding no trace of the museum incident. I know it happened, she told herself, yet the evidence was missing. Why were Lynn's memories so real to her, yet so wrong? Lynn's experience is a striking example of the false memory phenomenon, where people vividly recall events that never happened or are distorted. Her memory of fireworks felt real because her brain had woven together emotions, stories, and imagination into a convincing narrative. The more she shared the story, the stronger it became, reinforced by her family's reactions. But Nam's challenge forced her to confront the truth. Her memory was a creation, not a fact. Lynn began noticing other discrepancies. She remembered winning a school art contest, but records showed she came second. Each revelation made her question herself, sparking anxiety. She confided in a friend, a psychology major, who introduced her to the concept of false memories. With therapy, Lynn learned to accept that her mind wasn't betraying her. It was just human. She started journaling to separate real memories from imagined ones, slowly rebuilding trust in her own mind. The false memory phenomenon refers to the brain's tendency to create or distort memories, making us believe in events that didn't happen or happen differently. Memories aren't like videos. They're reconstructed each time we recall them, influenced by emotions, suggestions, or imagination. For Lynn, stories of Tet fireworks from her family may have blended with her childhood excitement, forming a vivid but false memory. This phenomenon is surprisingly common. It can stem from social influences, like hearing a story repeatedly, or from imagination filling in gaps. While often harmless, false memories can cause confusion or, in extreme cases, lead to mistaken beliefs, like eyewitness errors. Lynn's story shows how our brains prioritize emotional coherence over accuracy, creating memories that feel true even when they're not. Lynn's journey makes us wonder, how much of what we remember is real? Have you ever been certain of a memory, only to find it was wrong? The false memory phenomenon reveals the fragile nature of our minds, but it also shows their creativity in making sense of our lives. To reduce false memories, question vivid recollections, cross-check with evidence, and be open to others' perspectives. It's not about doubting yourself, but understanding your brain's quirks. What do you think of Lynn's story? Have you ever discovered a memory that wasn't true? Share your experiences in the comments, and let's explore the mysteries of memory together. Technostress. Overwhelmed by the digital world. In the tech hub of San Francisco, Clara, a 29-year-old software developer, thrived in the fast-paced world of startups. Her days buzzed with coding sprints, virtual meetings, and constant notifications from her phone and smartwatch. Clara loved her job, building apps that connected millions. But the digital demands were relentless. Emails piled up, Slack messages pinged non-stop, and her social media feeds overflowed with industry updates. She was always on, even at home. It started with small cracks. Clara felt anxious when her phone buzzed, dreading another urgent task. She struggled to sleep, her mind racing with unread messages and looming deadlines. During a team meeting, a glitch in her video call left her flustered, snapping at a colleague over a minor issue. "I can't keep up," she admitted to herself, staring at her screen late at night. Yet, she couldn't unplug. Missing a notification felt like failing. Why was Clara drowning in the tools meant to make life easier? Clara's struggle is a clear case of technostress, the stress caused by constant interaction with technology. Her job demanded 24/7 connectivity, leaving her overwhelmed by digital overload. She checked her phone obsessively, fearing she'd miss a critical update. Social media added pressure as she compared her productivity to influencers boasting hustle culture. The more connected she was, the more disconnected she felt from herself. As weeks passed, Clara's health suffered. Headaches became constant, her focus waned, and she felt detached from friends. When her best friend, Mia, suggested a weekend offline, Clara panicked, imagining work piling up. But a missed project deadline forced her to act, exhausted. She confided in Mia, who encouraged a digital detox. Clara started small, silencing notifications and setting work hours. With a therapist's help, she learned to balance tech with mindfulness, slowly rediscovering calm in a wired world. Technostress is the psychological and physical strain caused by overuse of or reliance on technology. It stems from constant connectivity, information overload, and pressure to stay updated. For Clara, the barrage of notifications and expectation to be always available eroded her well-being. Common signs include anxiety, irritability, and burnout, often paired with physical issues like eye strain or poor sleep. In today's digital age, technostress is rampant, especially in tech-driven cities like San Francisco. Work-from-home setups and social media amplify it, blurring boundaries between work and life. While technology boosts productivity, it can trap us in a cycle of overstimulation. Clara's story shows how the tools meant to empower us can sometimes overwhelm us, unless we set limits. Clara's journey makes us ask, are we controlling our tech? Or is it controlling us? Have you ever felt swamped by notifications or digital demands? Technostress is a modern challenge, but recognizing it is the first step to reclaiming balance. To combat technostress, try setting tech-free zones, like no phones at dinner or scheduling digital detoxes. Prioritize face-to-face connections and mindfulness to ground yourself. What do you think of Clara's story? Have you felt the weight of constant connectivity? Share your experiences in the comments, and let's talk about finding peace in a digital world. Narcissistic personality disorder, the spotlight seeker. In the vibrant heart of London, Oliver, a 35-year-old marketing executive, was a star in his field, charismatic and ambitious. He commanded attention with his sharp suits and confident pitches. Colleagues admired his charm, but behind closed doors, Oliver's world revolved around himself. He craved praise, often taking credit for team successes, and dismissed anyone who challenged his ideas. To Oliver, he was always the smartest person in the room. Trouble brewed when his new colleague, Sarah, joined the firm. She was talented, collaborative, and quickly earned the team's respect. Oliver felt threatened. He began undermining her in meetings, boasting about his own achievements while ignoring hers. When Sarah confronted him about stealing her campaign idea, Oliver brushed it off, saying, "You should thank me for making it better." His arrogance strained friendships and alienated coworkers. Yet, Oliver seemed oblivious, convinced he deserved adoration. Why couldn't he see the damage he was causing? Oliver's behavior reflects narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, a condition marked by an inflated sense of self and a deep need for admiration. He thrived on attention, but his lack of empathy hurt those around him. When Sarah's campaign won a company award, Oliver claimed he'd inspired it, dismissing her hurt feelings. Deep down, he felt a flicker of insecurity, but he buried it under bravado, unable to admit fault. As months passed, Oliver's relationships crumbled, coworkers avoided him, and his boss issued a warning about teamwork. At home, his partner, Emma, grew tired of his constant need for validation. "It's always about you," she said, leaving after a heated argument. For the first time, Oliver felt a pang of loneliness, but he blamed others, not himself. A mentor suggested therapy, where Oliver began confronting his need for control and approval. It was a tough journey, but small steps towards self-awareness gave him hope. Narcissistic personality disorder is a mental health condition characterized by grandiosity, a need for excessive admiration, and a lack of empathy. People with NPD, like Oliver, often overestimate their abilities and crave constant validation, while struggling to connect with others' feelings. This can lead to toxic relationships, as their self-focus overshadows others' needs. Beneath the confidence often lies fragile self-esteem, sensitive to criticism. NPD affects a small but noticeable portion of people, often in high-achieving fields like business or entertainment. It's challenging to treat, as those with NPD rarely see themselves as the problem. Yet, therapy can help them build empathy and self-awareness. Oliver's story shows how narcissism can dazzle at first, but leave a trail of broken connections, unless addressed with courage and support. Oliver's journey makes us wonder, why do some crave the spotlight at others' expense? Have you ever dealt with someone who seemed to care only about themselves? Narcissistic personality disorder reminds us that true confidence lifts others up, not tears them down. If you know someone showing narcissistic traits, set boundaries and encourage professional help with compassion. Change is possible, but it starts with self-reflection. What do you think of Oliver's story? Have you encountered someone whose need for praise strained a relationship? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's talk about building healthier connections. obsessive compulsive disorder, trapped in a loop. In the fast-paced streets of New York City, Elena, a 31-year-old librarian, was known for her meticulous organization. Her library's shelves were flawless, books aligned perfectly, and she took pride in her precision. But behind her calm demeanor, Elena was battling a hidden storm. For years, she was plagued by intrusive thoughts, fears that she'd left the library door unlocked, letting thieves in. The thought haunted her, even when she knew she'd checked the lock. Each evening, Elena locked the library and double-checked the door, but doubt crept in, forcing her back to check again, sometimes 5 or 6 times. At home, she washed her hands repeatedly, convinced they were contaminated, until her skin cracked. What if I spread germs? She worried. Though she knew it was irrational, these rituals consumed hours, leaving her exhausted and late for plans with friends. Why couldn't Elena break free from these relentless thoughts and actions? Elena's struggle is a vivid example of obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, a condition marked by intrusive thoughts, obsessions, and repetitive behaviors, compulsions, to ease anxiety. Her fear of an unlocked door was an obsession, driving her to check repeatedly, a compulsion that briefly calmed her but never erased the doubt. Hand-washing was another ritual, triggered by her fear of contamination. These cycles trapped her, stealing time and energy. As months passed, Elena's rituals worsened. She avoided social events, fearing judgment, and her work suffered as she spent hours reorganizing books to prevent mistakes. Her sister, Maria, noticed her distress and urged her to seek help. Elena resisted, ashamed of her weird habits, but exhaustion pushed her to see a therapist. Through cognitive behavioral therapy, she learned to challenge her intrusive thoughts and reduce her rituals. It was a slow process, but each small victory, like leaving the library after one check, felt like freedom. Obsessive compulsive disorder is a mental health condition where unwanted, intrusive thoughts cause intense anxiety, leading to repetitive behaviors to reduce distress. For Elena, the obsession with locks and germs sparked rituals that felt necessary but were never enough. OCD varies widely. Some fear harm, others perfectionism, and compulsions can include checking, cleaning, or counting. While everyone has occasional worries, OCD's thoughts are persistent and debilitating. OCD affects millions worldwide, often starting in adolescence or early adulthood. It's not just being neat. It's a cycle of anxiety and control that disrupts life. Treatment, like therapy or medication, can help manage symptoms by rewiring thought patterns. Elena's story shows how OCD can feel like a prison, but with support, those trapped can find a way out. Elena's journey makes us ask, what does it feel like to be stuck in your own mind? Have you ever been caught in a loop of worry or habits you couldn't stop? OCD reminds us that mental health struggles are real, but they don't define a person's worth or potential. If you or someone you know shows signs of OCD, encourage seeking professional help with kindness. Small steps, like talking or learning about the condition, can make a big difference. What do you think of Elena's story? Have you seen someone wrestle with repetitive thoughts or actions? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's raise awareness about mental health. Complex PTSD, healing from hidden wounds. In the windy city of Chicago, Maya, a 38-year-old social worker, was a pillar of strength for her clients. She helped families navigate crises, her warm smile masking her own pain. Growing up in a turbulent home, Maya endured years of emotional neglect and verbal abuse from her parents. The constant criticism, "You're never good enough," lingered in her mind, even as she built a successful career. She thought she'd moved on, but some wounds never fully healed. Maya's days were haunted by sudden, vivid flashbacks of her childhood, her father's shouting, her mother's cold silence. These memories struck without warning, leaving her heart racing and palms sweaty. She struggled with trust, keeping friends at a distance, and felt a deep sense of shame, as if she were somehow broken. At work, a client's raised voice could send her into a panic, making her feel small and helpless again. "Why can't I just let it go?" she wondered. Why did the past still control her? Maya's struggles reflect complex post-traumatic stress disorder, CPTSD, a condition caused by prolonged, repeated trauma, often in childhood or oppressive environments. Unlike single-event PTSD, CPTSD stems from ongoing abuse or neglect, leaving deep emotional scars. For Maya, her childhood left her with persistent feelings of worthlessness and hypervigilance, always bracing for the next blow. As years passed, Maya's symptoms intensified. She had nightmares, avoided family gatherings, and felt detached from her own life. When a coworker suggested therapy, Maya hesitated, fearing it meant admitting weakness. But after a panic attack left her sobbing in her car, she reached out to a trauma therapist. Through therapy, Maya learned to name her pain and process her memories. Support groups helped her connect with others who understood, slowly rebuilding her sense of self. It wasn't easy, but each step forward felt like reclaiming a piece of her life. Complex PTSD is a mental health condition caused by chronic trauma, such as ongoing abuse, neglect, or captivity. It shares symptoms with PTSD, like flashbacks and anxiety, but also includes unique challenges, difficulty regulating emotions, feelings of shame, and trouble with relationships. For Maya, her childhood trauma shaped her self-image, making trust and self-worth elusive. CPTSD often stems from environments where escape feels impossible, leaving lasting psychological wounds. This disorder is more common than many realize, affecting those who've faced prolonged adversity, like domestic abuse or war. Treatment, like trauma-focused therapy or support groups, can help survivors process pain and rebuild resilience. Maya's story shows how CPTSD can linger in silence, but with support, healing is possible. Maya's journey makes us ask, how do hidden wounds shape our lives? Have you ever felt trapped by a past you couldn't escape? Complex PTSD reminds us that trauma's impact can last years, but it doesn't have to define us. If you or someone you know struggles with CPTSD, offer compassion and encourage professional help. Listening without judgment can be a lifeline. What do you think of Maya's story? Have you seen someone carry the weight of past trauma? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's foster understanding and healing together. Transient global amnesia, a fleeting void. In the charming streets of Paris, Claire, a 52-year-old art historian, was living her dream. She spent her days guiding tourists through the Louvre, her passion for art lighting up her lectures. Known for her sharp memory and warm demeanor, Claire seemed unstoppable. But one sunny afternoon, while leading a tour group, her world turned upside down. Mid-sentence, describing a Monet painting, she froze. Her mind went blank. Not just about the painting, but about where she was and why. Claire stammered, asking a tourist, "What am I doing here?" Panic set in as she realized she couldn't recall the past few hours or even her morning coffee. Her group exchanged worried glances, and a colleague rushed her to a hospital. Tests showed no stroke or injury, but Claire was terrified. "Who am I if I can't remember?" she thought. By evening, her memories slowly returned, but the fear lingered. What had stolen her mind for those hours? Claire's experience is a classic case of transient global amnesia, TGA, a rare condition causing sudden, temporary memory loss. During her episode, Claire could still talk and function, but couldn't form new memories or recall recent events. She kept asking the same questions, unaware of the answers she'd just received. The episode, though brief, shook her confidence, making her question her reliability as a guide and scholar. In the days that followed, Claire felt anxious, dreading another lapse. Her husband, Luke, supported her through doctor visits, where she learned TGA often strikes without warning, typically in middle age, and rarely recurs. Though relieved, Claire struggled to trust her mind again. She started keeping a journal to anchor her thoughts and leaned on mindfulness to ease her fears. Slowly, she returned to her tours, sharing her story with close friends to process the ordeal. Transient global amnesia is a neurological condition where someone suddenly loses the ability to form new memories or recall recent events, lasting a few hours. Unlike dementia, it's temporary, with no lasting damage. During TGA, people remain alert and can perform tasks but may repeat questions, unaware of their memory gap. For Claire, the sudden void was disorienting, like waking up in a story with missing pages. TGA is rare, often triggered by stress, physical exertion, or sudden temperature changes. Though the exact cause is unclear, it's more common in people over 50 and rarely happens again. While not life-threatening, it can be deeply unsettling, as memory is central to identity. Claire's story shows how TGA can disrupt life briefly but profoundly, leaving a lasting emotional impact. Claire's journey makes us ask, what would it feel like to lose your memories, even for a day? Have you ever blanked out under stress or forgotten something important? Transient global amnesia reminds us how fragile our minds can be, yet how resilient we are in recovery. If you or someone you know experiences sudden memory loss, seek medical help immediately, but know that conditions like TGA are often temporary. Support and understanding can ease the fear. What do you think of Claire's story? Have you, or someone you know, faced a moment of mental fog? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's explore the mysteries of memory together. Excoriation disorder, the unseen scars. In the rainy, vibrant city of Seattle, Noah, a 24-year-old graphic designer, was a rising talent at a creative agency. His bold designs and quiet charm won over clients. But Noah hid a secret struggle. Whenever stress hit, tight deadlines, client critiques, or social pressures, he found himself picking at his skin. It started with small scratches on his arms during late-night work sessions, but soon it became a habit he couldn't control. The marks, hidden under long sleeves, were his private battle. One evening, after a tense meeting where a client rejected his pitch, Noah sat at his desk, heart racing. Without thinking, he began picking at a spot on his hand, digging until it bled. The pain was sharp, but it dulled his anxiety, offering a fleeting sense of relief. "Why do I keep doing this?" he thought, ashamed as he bandaged his hand. The cycle was relentless. Stress triggered picking, which led to guilt, which fueled more stress. Why was Noah trapped in this painful loop? Noah's behavior reflects excoriation disorder, also known as skin picking disorder, a condition where people compulsively pick at their skin, often causing injury. For Noah, picking was a way to cope with overwhelming emotions, stress, rejection, or self-doubt. Each scratch temporarily eased his tension, but the resulting scars deepened his shame, making him withdraw from friends and avoid social events where his marks might show. As months passed, Noah's picking worsened. He spent hours in front of the mirror, targeting small blemishes until his skin was raw. His roommate, Alex, noticed the bandages and Noah's growing isolation. When confronted gently, Noah opened up, tearfully admitting he felt trapped. Alex encouraged him to see a therapist, who diagnosed excoriation disorder. Through cognitive behavioral therapy and support groups, Noah learned to redirect his urges, using stress balls and mindfulness techniques. It was a slow journey, but each day without picking felt like a small victory. Excoriation disorder is a mental health condition where individuals repeatedly pick at their skin, often to cope with stress, anxiety, or negative emotions. It's related to obsessive compulsive disorder, driven by an urge that feels uncontrollable. For Noah, picking was a release, but it led to physical harm and emotional distress. Common triggers include stress, perfectionism, or body image concerns, and the behavior can target any skin area, from face to arms. This disorder affects many, often starting in adolescence and persisting without treatment. It's not just a bad habit. It's a compulsive behavior tied to emotional regulation. Therapy, medication, or habit reversal techniques can help manage symptoms. Noah's story shows how excoriation disorder can hide in plain sight, but with support, those struggling can find healthier ways to cope. Noah's journey makes us ask, what do we do when stress takes over? Have you ever turned to a habit to escape tough emotions? Excoriation disorder reminds us that some battles are fought in silence, but they don't have to be fought alone. If you or someone you know struggles with skin picking, approach it with compassion and encourage professional help. Small steps, like therapy or stress management, can break the cycle. What do you think of Noah's story? Have you seen someone cope with stress in hidden ways? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's raise awareness together. Attachment disorder, the walls around connection. In the colorful streets of Barcelona, Lucia, a 26-year-old freelance photographer, captured the city's beauty through her lens. Her vibrant photos of markets and cathedrals won her clients. But her personal life was a different story. Lucia kept everyone at arm's length, dodging close friendships and romantic relationships. Growing up in foster care, shuffled between homes, she'd learned early that trusting others led to disappointment. People always leave, she told herself. When Lucia met Anna, a warm-hearted cafe owner who invited her to join a local art group, she felt a spark of connection. But soon, fear took over. Anna's kindness felt suffocating, and Lucia pulled away. Ignoring texts and skipping group meetups, deep inside, she longed for closeness, but the thought of depending on someone triggered panic. After canceling plans with Anna yet again, Lucia felt a familiar emptiness. Why can't I let anyone in? She wondered. What was holding her back from the connection she craved? Lucia's struggle reflects attachment disorder, a condition rooted in early experiences that disrupt the ability to form secure relationships. Her years in foster care, marked by inconsistent caregivers and emotional neglect, taught her that trust was risky. as an adult, she built walls to protect herself, pushing away those who tried to get close. Anna's kindness stirred both hope and fear, triggering Lucia's instinct to withdraw. As time passed, Lucia's isolation grew. She buried herself in work, avoiding social events, but the loneliness gnawed at her. When Anna gently confronted her about pulling away, Lucia broke down, sharing fragments of her past. Anna suggested therapy, and though hesitant, Lucia agreed. Through counseling, she explored how her childhood shaped her fears. Slowly, she practiced small steps, joining art group outings, responding to Anna's messages, learning to trust without expecting betrayal. It was hard, but each connection felt like a victory. Attachment disorder, often seen in children but persisting into adulthood, occurs when early caregivers fail to provide consistent love and security, disrupting the ability to form healthy bonds. For Lucia, the instability of foster care led to an avoidant attachment style, where closeness felt threatening. Symptoms include difficulty trusting, fear of intimacy, or pushing others away, even when craving connection. This disorder often stems from neglect, abuse, or frequent caregiver changes in childhood. It can manifest as emotional withdrawal or, in some cases, clinginess. Therapy, like attachment-based counseling, can help rebuild trust and foster secure relationships. Lucia's story shows how attachment disorder can create invisible barriers, but with support, those walls can begin to crumble. Lucia's journey makes us ask, why is it so hard to trust sometimes? Have you ever felt torn between wanting closeness and fearing it? Attachment disorder reminds us that our early experiences shape how we connect, but healing is possible with time and support. If you know someone struggling to form bonds, offer patience and encourage professional help without judgment. Small gestures of consistency can make a difference. What do you think of Lucia's story? Have you or someone you know faced challenges in building trust? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's talk about fostering connection. Insomnia disorder, chasing sleep in the dark. In the vibrant city of Toronto, Liam, a 40-year-old high school teacher, was known for his engaging history lessons and warm humor. But behind his lively classroom presence, Liam was fighting a silent battle. For months, he lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling as his mind raced with lesson plans, student concerns, and endless worries. Sleep, once a refuge, had become a distant dream, leaving him drained and on edge. Each night, Liam tossed and turned, checking the clock as hours slipped away. He tried warm milk, white noise, even meditation apps, but nothing worked. By morning, he dragged himself to work, his patience thin and his focus blurry. During a parent-teacher meeting, he zoned out, forgetting a student's name, a first for him. Why can't I just sleep? He wondered, frustration mounting. The exhaustion was stealing his joy, but he hid it, fearing judgment. Why was sleep so elusive? Liam's struggle reflects insomnia disorder, a condition where persistent difficulty falling or staying asleep disrupts daily life. His racing thoughts about work, responsibilities, even trivial worries kept his brain on high alert, making rest impossible. The lack of sleep fueled his anxiety, creating a vicious cycle where worry kept him awake, and exhaustion made him worry more. As weeks turned into months, Liam's life unraveled. He snapped at students, skipped workouts, and withdrew from his partner, Sophie, who noticed his growing irritability. When Sophie found him pacing at 3 a.m., she urged him to see a doctor. Liam resisted, thinking insomnia was just stress, but a near accident while driving shook him. A sleep specialist diagnosed insomnia disorder, recommending cognitive behavioral therapy and better sleep habits. Slowly, Liam learned to quiet his mind, finding rest through routines like journaling and limiting screen time. Each restful night felt like a small triumph. Insomnia disorder is a chronic condition where people struggle to fall asleep, stay asleep, or get restorative sleep, lasting for at least 3 months. Unlike occasional sleepless nights, it significantly impairs daily functioning, causing fatigue, irritability, and poor concentration. For Liam, anxiety triggered his insomnia, but other causes include stress, medical issues, or poor sleep habits. The disorder feeds on itself. Sleeplessness breeds worry, which worsens sleep. Insomnia affects millions, especially in high-pressure environments like Toronto's urban bustle. It's not just toughing it out. Chronic sleep loss can harm physical and mental health, increasing risks of anxiety or heart issues. Treatment, like therapy, medication, or lifestyle changes, can restore sleep. Liam's story shows how insomnia can dim life's brightness, but with help, rest is within reach. Liam's journey makes us ask, what happens when sleep becomes a battle? Have you ever lain awake, trapped in your thoughts? Insomnia disorder reminds us that rest is vital, yet it can slip away without warning, affecting every part of life. If you or someone you know struggles with insomnia, encourage seeking help from a doctor or therapist. Simple changes, like a consistent bedtime or cutting caffeine, can help. What do you think of Liam's story? Have you faced nights where sleep just won't come? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's talk about finding peace in the quiet hours. Hoarding disorder, holding on to chaos. In the charming, sunlit streets of Lisbon, Maria, a 60-year-old retired nurse, lived in a cozy apartment filled with memories. Once known for her nurturing care at the local hospital, Maria now spent her days surrounded by stacks of old newspapers, clothes, and trinkets. Her home, once warm and welcoming, was now a maze of clutter, with narrow paths winding through piles of keepsakes. To Maria, each item held a story: a letter from her late husband, a dress from her youth, a magazine she might read someday. When her daughter, Sophia, visited from Madrid, she was shocked to find the apartment nearly unlivable. "Mom, you can't keep living like this," Sophia pleaded, pointing to the cluttered kitchen where dishes were buried under papers. Maria grew defensive, insisting, "I need these things." The thought of letting go felt like losing pieces of herself. Yet, deep down, she felt trapped, overwhelmed by the chaos, but unable to part with her possessions. Why couldn't Maria let go of the clutter? Maria's struggle is a hallmark of hoarding disorder, a condition where people compulsively collect items and struggle to discard them, even when they disrupt daily life. For Maria, each object was tied to memories of her past, her husband, her career, her youth. Throwing them away felt like erasing her identity. The clutter, though chaotic, gave her a sense of control in a life marked by loss. As months passed, Maria's hoarding strained her relationships. Sophia stopped visiting, frustrated by arguments over cleaning. Neighbors complained about the cluttered balcony, and Maria avoided inviting anyone over, ashamed of her home. When a pipe leak forced her to call a plumber, the embarrassment was unbearable. Sophia intervened, connecting her with a therapist specializing in hoarding. With gentle guidance, Maria began sorting through her belongings, starting with small items. It was painful, but each cleared space felt like a step toward freedom. Hoarding disorder is a mental health condition where individuals excessively accumulate items, often of little value, and struggle to discard them, leading to cluttered, unsafe living spaces. It's driven by emotional attachment, fear of loss, or perfectionism. Maria feared discarding something important. Unlike collecting, hoarding disrupts life, causing distress or health risks like mold or fire hazards. Hoarding affects people across ages, often tied to trauma, grief, or anxiety. It's more than messiness. It's a complex behavior requiring empathy and professional help, like therapy or organizational support. Maria's story shows how hoarding can trap someone in their own home, but with patience and support, change is possible. Maria's journey makes us ask, why do we hold on to things that weigh us down? Have you ever struggled to let go of objects tied to memories? Hoarding disorder reminds us that our possessions can sometimes hold us hostage, but healing starts with small steps. If you know someone with hoarding tendencies, approach them with compassion, not judgment, and encourage professional help. Clearing clutter is about more than cleaning. It's about reclaiming life. What do you think of Maria's story? Have you seen someone struggle to part with possessions? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's talk about finding balance. Hypervigilance syndrome, always on guard. In the historic streets of Boston, Javier, a 33-year-old paramedic, was known for his quick thinking and calm under pressure. His job demanded constant alertness, racing to emergencies and saving lives. But off-duty, Javier couldn't switch off. After a traumatic call involving a violent accident, he began scanning every room for threats, jumping at loud noises, and double-checking locks obsessively. The world felt like a minefield, and he was always braced for danger. At home, Javier's hyper-alertness strained his life. He startled at a neighbor's car backfiring, his heart pounding as if he were back at a crash site. Social outings overwhelmed him. Crowded bars felt suffocating, and he watched strangers' hands, fearing hidden threats. His partner, Emily, noticed his tension, saying, "You're never fully here." Javier wanted to relax, but his mind screamed to stay vigilant. Why can't I just feel safe? He thought. What was keeping him on edge? Javier's constant alertness reflects hypervigilance syndrome, a state of heightened awareness often tied to trauma or chronic stress. The accident he witnessed left him stuck in fight or flight mode, his brain wired to anticipate danger. Everyday sounds, like a slamming door, triggered intense reactions, as if his body expected another crisis. This hypervigilance protected him at work, but exhausted him in daily life. As months passed, Javier's symptoms grew. He avoided busy places, lost sleep to intrusive thoughts, and grew irritable with Emily. When a co-worker suggested therapy after noticing his jumpiness, Javier brushed it off, thinking he could tough it out. But a panic attack during a quiet dinner with Emily changed his mind. With her support, he started therapy, learning grounding techniques and trauma processing. Slowly, Javier began to feel safe again, though it took time to quiet his overactive instincts. Hypervigilance syndrome is a condition where individuals remain excessively alert, constantly scanning for threats due to trauma, anxiety, or high-stress environments. For Javier, the traumatic accident rewired his brain, making safety feel elusive. Common signs include jumpiness, difficulty relaxing, and heightened sensitivity to sounds or movements. It's often linked to PTSD or prolonged stress, like that faced by first responders. Hypervigilance is common among those in high-stakes roles or with past trauma, but it can affect anyone. While it may feel protective, it leads to exhaustion, isolation, and strained relationships. Therapy, mindfulness, or support groups can help rewire the brain's threat response. Javier's story shows how hypervigilance can trap someone in a state of constant alert, but healing can restore calm. Javier's journey makes us ask, what does it feel like to never let your guard down? Have you ever felt on edge, unable to relax? Hypervigilance syndrome reminds us that our minds can stay on high alert long after danger passes, but we can learn to find peace again. If you or someone you know struggles with hypervigilance, offer patience and encourage professional help. Small steps, like breathing exercises or safe spaces, can ease the tension. What do you think of Javier's story? Have you seen someone live in constant alert? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's talk about finding calm in a restless world. These stories remind us how complex the human mind can be, shaping our lives in ways we don't always see. Each journey we've shared is a step toward understanding ourselves and others. What did today's story make you feel? Have you or someone you know faced a similar struggle? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your story. If this video resonated with you, hit that like button, share it with a friend, and subscribe to join us for more insights into the mind. And this is the Hollow Room. Let's keep exploring together.